My friends, I want to compliment everyone who stayed in the room because you're going to get $50,000 worth of legal advice for free. Everyone who just walked out is going to pay their lawyer tens of thousands of dollars, and they're going to be hating life. So my compliments to everyone who is still in this room. So my name is Gordon Einstein. I'm a lawyer who specializes exclusively on crypto and blockchain. I'm licensed from the US, otherwise known as the punitive environment, or the environment that regulates by enforcement, not by encouragement. So I've seen the devil face to face and stared him down on a few occasions. So again, my compliments to them who stayed in the room. Everyone who walked away, they're going to go to bankrupt. They're going to be bankrupt or in jail. The ones who stayed, hats off to you. So I have my deck that I am going to completely ignore. I'm going to do something else, something I've never done before, which is I am going to walk you through my mental process for evaluating DeFi projects. I'm going to tell you how I think as a lawyer, the steps that I take when I'm analyzing a project, and how I develop my advice for them. Okay, so this is not something we have to pay $20,000 for a memo. I will actually walk you through the process, the algorithm, if you like, for identifying what projects are legal, what projects aren't, or how you can make them legal. Okay, so hang on to this. But first, one question. Who's excited that Bitcoin is over $35,000? Raise your hands. Cool. Who thinks Bitcoin will be over $100,000 by the end of 2024? Raise your hand. And if you don't think it will, raise your hand. Fantastic. Who's not going to raise their hand no matter what I say? Well, there's usually someone. There you are. There's always one person in the room, and you have to find them. I know who you are now. I've identified you. Okay, let's talk about from a legal perspective, and just from an ontological or analytical perspective, let's talk about what decentralized finance is and what it's not. All right? Decentralized finance does not mean it's on the blockchain. Decentralized finance does not mean it's crypto. Okay? Those things are using a decentralized network. But you can build a highly centralized entity on a decentralized network. If you build a DAO, in air quotes, that has one person in charge, one person with all the governance tokens, who can change the underlying smart contracts at will, you've built a very highly centralized dictatorship on an underlying decentralized network. Okay, that is not decentralized finance. Let's kind of walk through what that means. And what is finance in general? Finance, as we understand it, is using transactions involving money over time, including an intermediary. It's okay. Oh, yeah, sure. I'm telling you, this is worth far more if you just listen than whatever I had up on the deck. Okay, finance is not simply a payment. Finance is not simply I go to the restaurant and buy a burger. Okay, that's a transaction involving money, but it's not necessarily finance, right? Finance, again, I would put out to you, is a transaction involving money over time and with an intermediary of some nature. That's what we're talking about here. Now, let's kind of tease out. In traditional finance, what do we think about? We think about lending money. We think about sales of equity in companies. We think about some forms of construction loans. We think about banks. We think about those sort of things. What's sort of the center of most of those? It's the fact it's not usually a direct peer-to-peer type transaction. You're usually going through some sort of intermediary, whether it's a bank or a brokerage house or something like that. And if you look at the traditional world of finance, it's not so much the end users that are regulated. Like me, if I buy some stock in a company, I'm regulated sort of, like I can't engage in insider trading, but the really regulated entities are the brokerage house, the stockbroker, the company issuing its shares, those centralized entities. So the question with decentralized finance, the question or the threshold issue of whether or not regulation might apply to you is, are you in part or in whole replacing one of those regulated entities in its functionality, right? Are you eliminating it or are you replacing it? Okay, that's a very key distinction. Now, let me tease that out a little bit. I would suggest to you that Bitcoin itself does not represent decentralized finance. But Gordon, how can you say that? It's on a decentralized network. Blah, blah, blah. Because payments, as Satoshi famously pointed out, require the use of a trusted or semi-trusted intermediary, at least traditional payments. Unless I'm giving cash to a person directly, face to face, I usually have to go through a bank, I have to go through a credit card company, I have to go through something. Okay? What Bitcoin did that was so neat is it eliminated that intermediary, it eliminated that middle party, it made every transaction, even transactions happening at a distance, basically cash transactions, peer-to-peer. Right? So use a decentralized network to accomplish that outcome, but it didn't replace payment processors, it eliminated payment processors. There's a key distinction there. Right? If you're coming up with a project on the network that eliminates the need for a trusted intermediary, doesn't replace it with a smart contract, doesn't replace it with an online organization, but just makes it not necessary, okay, that is not decentralized finance. Okay? Decentralized finance is when you take something that was traditionally done in the TradFi world and bring it on-chain and sort of replicate its functionality in a way that makes the legacy organizations redundant or unnecessary. So Brad actually made a really good point. You know, what is a good example of that? Well, an exchange, for example. Okay, an exchange, you know, used to be a brick and mortar building, then it became purely electronic. Now you can maybe do it online. You can have a decentralized exchange, and you're not eliminating the need for exchange. You're merely replacing it with a new version. That in my world, is decentralized finance. That is the epitome of DeFi. Now, what's neat about blockchain, what's neat about these technologies, is you don't simply replace or replicate what you had before. You can create new functionality with these technologies. So you can have, for example, an automated market maker. Okay? Rather than having humans in a room who are in the business of buying and selling securities from their own personal inventory, the users can contribute their securities, their tokens, their inventory, whatever, to a smart contract, to an inanimate object that exists on chain, that isn't a person, and operates by an algorithm in order to accomplish something like what an exchange or market maker would have done before. So suppose I've done a million of these conversations where a DeFi project will come into the room and go, we don't need to be regulated, or we're regulated this way and not that way, and I have to kind of take them back to basic principles, to basic understandings. What is the essence of what you're doing? Explain to me like I'm 5 years old. Walk me through it. And then I perform this legal analysis. So, Brad, you have a DeFi project, don't you? Brad, come up here, please. This is my cherubic entrepreneurial friend, Brad. Everyone give a big round of applause. All right, so this is a hypothetical only, and I'm not providing legal advice, and anything I say is of no consequence, right?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is worth what you're paying for it. Okay, so in its barest essence, okay, Equify, okay, you're replacing a bank or which functionality?
A bank.
Okay, a bank. Are banks regulated?
Yes, they are.
Okay, now, would you say that you're a decentralized bank, or are you a bank replacement existing on a blockchain or something else?
There's no such thing as a decentralized bank yet. It has to come with regulation. So we are a bank, but we do have decentralized financial products.
Okay, so let's tease this out. So the entity, the structure, I actually don't know, so I'm asking you for real. Okay, the structure is semi-traditional, but the products it's selling are cutting-edge DeFi. Is that correct?
Yes, we're in the transition period right now. So the entity is centralized, but we are going in a decentralized direction.
Okay, so that's a very good analysis, or a very good position to take. There's some things which are legal to do right now on the blockchain. There's some things that are gray zone, either because the regulators haven't gotten to them yet, or because there's an international diversity of opinion on it. And there's some things that are not yet able to do legally on the internet. I'd argue that banking, like full-on banking, I mean, that is a highly regulated industry, highly regulated. Right? And stable coins themselves, some people are arguing it's a bank-like function. I mean, you give in your dollar to Tether and you receive back a USDT. Isn't that like a deposit? Isn't it? Aren't you depositing your money in a bank, getting a depository receipt that you should be able to cash back in? That's the argument why stable coins, it's funny, that's the argument why dollar-backed stable coins are a bank, but algorithmic ones aren't. Kind of interesting little distinction there. Okay, so thank you for that example. Actually, I may call you back up on the stage. Everyone give a big round of applause for Brad.
Thank you, Gordon.
Right. So, if someone came in and they said, we're going to do a bank online, we're going to make a decentralized version of a bank, I would have to extremely tease out what do they mean. Are you taking deposits? Are you making loans? Or are you providing a software platform where other people can do these things and you're merely a software publisher? Okay, those are some very, very, very key distinctions. All right, if you're personally, or your entity, or your online entity is taking deposits, holding other people's money, okay, you're stepping clearly into banking law, and you need to watch it. Okay, what you're doing is either illegal or it's gray zone, or you just need to kind of hold your breath and hope you make it through the process. If you're creating an automated facility, okay, that lets other people take loans online, or there's a smart contract doing it, but you kind of thrown away the keys to it, you no longer have admin access to it, then you're sort of getting away from traditional banking. You're more like a software publisher, or you're providing facilities that other people can use to do this. Does this make sense? Okay, I see nodding heads, so that's a good sign. Who else has a DeFi project in the room? And don't be shy. Sir, please. Come on, give me a break. You were just on stage. You can't be shy. Say your name again, please.
I'm Mick.
Mick, good to see you. Good to see you. Good job, by the way.
Thank
Very well
you.
done.
You too.
Thanks so far. So tell us about your deal.
Actually, I can't really talk about it too much. So
Okay, get off. No,
It's
but we'll share
it's
your
a
thoughts in
DeFi
general. You
it's
obviously have a thought.
No, actually, it's really good. It's an investment fund, which is a DeFi project. So this is actually really interesting that you were talking about. And you're,
Now,
and
now
you're
can I jump in for a second?
yeah, of course.
This is a perfect example. Okay, let me give you the US law perspective. Okay, issuing a security under the US, you cannot do it without registering it with the SEC, which is our enforcement agency, or finding an exemption. Okay, there's the 1933 Securities Act that makes that a requirement. If you're running an exchange, okay, of securities, you have to register that exchange and comply under the 1934 Exchange Act. Then, if you're running an investment fund, the term for that in the United States is an investment company, that's regulated under the 1940 Investment Company Act. Okay, so anytime a company is creating a mutual fund or an EFT or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's something actually we were discussing.
Don't you like when
with the-
lawyers say maybe and charge you $10,000?
Well, yeah, we'll take it down off stage, right?
Maybe you can share a little bit more.
No, but it's true. It is actually a legal kind of a hassle because, as you told, you could be in the gray zone, but if you're actually taking deposits, then you're in the banking world. So it is true, and it's not easy.
Now, here's a question for you. What if you create a smart contract that replicates the function of a mutual fund or exchange-traded fund, but that functionality is now out there in space, and you kind of release it to be free? It's on the blockchain. Everyone can access it, and you don't have backdoor access anymore. Just what's your instinct?
I mean, I'm a DeFi guy, so of course I think that's okay because that's a DeFi project and it's flying on its own. So
Well, it's certainly worthwhile, but do you think it's legal?
I'm not a lawyer as you are, but I think as it is now, it is actually because we haven't specified all the legalities in that matter.
Right, so it is a gray zone. There's things you can do to sort of make yourself safer, all right? If you're doing an online VC fund, if you're doing an online investment fund or a mutual fund, and you want to get away from the regulated model, the safest way to do it is, first of all, don't be an American, okay? So reincarnate yourself as a Dubai Nick, or something.
But the EU is still catching up with MiCA, so it doesn't matter. It's going to be regulated all over.
It's going to be, well, since you're up on stage, I'm going to ask a question. What gets regulated in real life? It's people, it's institutions, it's companies. Can you regulate a code? Can you regulate a smart contract? I mean, if a smart contract, quote unquote, breaks the law, like an inanimate object could break the law. Think about it. How can can a robot break the law? I mean, that's we're getting to Asimov. But can a smart contract? It's just code, okay? And if that code exists separate from a human, how do you enforce the law against it? What do you do?
You don't. But there's some legal actions already taking on DAOs. So I mean, it is getting cracking down.
That's a DAO. A DAO kind of sort of has people behind it, right? But if you publish, for example, who's familiar with Tornado Cash? Okay, you know, or there's all these online mixers where you can stick in your crypto, mix it all up, and wherever your crypto came from before, it's now clean, beautiful, and wonderful. Never mind what happened in North Korea. Okay, so in the United States, the publisher of the Tornado Cash contract got personally busted, and the addresses on the chain that were assigned to Tornado Cash got basically attacked under OFAC, which is the Office of Foreign Asset Control. But you know, even if the founder of Tornado Cash disappears like Satoshi, and this contract is online and it works, what do you do if you're the regulator? So what I'm suggesting here is that you kind of need to know who you are and what you're doing. If you're a software publisher, you're not handling the transactions yourself, okay? You're freeing up to the world this code and then letting go of it. You know, here, it's open source. Everyone do what you want, okay? You're no longer quite in the field of regulation, especially if you are not in a country that's just being punitive, okay? If you're taking a normal regulated entity and moving it online, but still exerting a level of control over it that you would over a local or non-online entity, then that's where you need to walk through the minefield. And then, if you're an online version of a bank, you need to comply with banking law. Okay, you don't escape regulation. That's the key idea. But if you're an online version of a bank that's a purely autonomous code and you step back from it, that's when you have a chance of escaping or modifying some of the regulation. So I'm out of time. I'm happy to talk more and answer questions, and I congratulate everyone who listened. You just got a whole bunch of free legal advice.
Thanks.
Go ahead.